You're at a family gathering. You watch your daughter laugh with her coworker on the phone. She's warm. She's patient. She says things like, "Oh, absolutely, take your time, no rush at all." Then she hangs up. You ask her a simple question, maybe about dinner, maybe about her week, and the warmth disappears. The eyes roll. The tone drops. "Mom, I already told you. Why do you keep asking?" Or maybe it's your son. You've seen him hold the door open for a stranger at the grocery store. You've heard him say "yes, sir" to his boss without a hint of resistance. But when you call him on a Sunday afternoon, he sounds like you're bothering him, like your voice is an inconvenience. And you sit there wondering, what did I do wrong? Why does everyone else get the best of my child, and I get the leftovers? If that moment sounds familiar, I want you to hear something right now before we go any further. You're not crazy. You're not imagining it. And you are absolutely not alone. Let's just say I've spent over 40 years as a clinical psychologist sitting across from parents just like you. Thousands of them. And I've heard some version of this same question more times than I can count. Why do my kids respect everyone else but me? Today, I'm going to give you 8 real answers. Not surface-level stuff. Not feel-good fluff. Real psychological reasons that explain this pattern, and more importantly, what you can actually do about it. This isn't about blaming your children, and it's certainly not about blaming you. It's about understanding what's really going on, so you can stop carrying that weight in your chest and start getting the respect you deserve. Let's begin. Before we get into the 8 reasons, I want to set something straight. Because too many people hear this topic and immediately think, well, I guess I just raised bad kids. No, that's not what this is about. What we're talking about is a psychological dynamic, a pattern that happens between aging parents and their adult children all over the world. It doesn't matter how good your parenting was. It doesn't matter how much you sacrificed. This pattern shows up in loving families, in close families, even in families that look perfect from the outside. And here's something important I want you to hold on to. Respect is not the same as obedience. Your child may love you deeply, truly, genuinely love you, and still treat you in ways that feel disrespectful. Those two things can exist at the same time. And understanding that difference is the first step to healing. Now, for each of the 8 reasons I'm about to share, I'll give you a sign to look for, and one thing you can do right away. Not next year. Not when the timing is perfect. Today. Let's get into it. Reason 1. You are their emotional safe zone. Here's something that might surprise you. The reason your child treats you worse than they treat other people is because you are the person they trust the most. I know. It doesn't feel like a compliment. But stay with me. Think about it this way. Your child goes out into the world every day and performs. They manage their tone with their boss because their paycheck depends on it. They're polite to friends because friendships are fragile. One wrong word and the relationship could crack. They smile at strangers because that's what society expects. But with you, there's no performance. There's no risk. Because deep down, your child knows something that they've known since they were 2 years old. You're not going anywhere. You won't fire them. You won't unfriend them. You won't walk away. So where does all the stress go? Where does the exhaustion land? Where does the frustration from a long day get dumped? On the safest person in the room. You. It's a cruel irony, isn't it? You get treated the worst, precisely because you love the best. Your home is their emotional exhale. And sometimes that exhale comes out rough. Now, does that make it okay? Absolutely not. But it does mean this. When your child snaps at you, it's not always a sign of contempt. Sometimes it's a twisted sign of trust. What you can do, the next time it happens, try saying this, calmly, without anger. I know you're comfortable with me, and I'm glad. But comfortable doesn't mean careless. I still need kindness. That one sentence can shift the whole dynamic. Reason 2. The power dynamic has shifted, and nobody talked about it. When your children were young, you were the center of their universe. You had the answers. You had the money. You had the car keys. You decided what was for dinner, when bedtime was, and whether they could go to that party on Friday night. Now, the tables have turned in ways that nobody prepared either of you for. Maybe they manage your doctor's appointments now. Maybe they help you with your phone or your computer. Maybe they worry about your finances or your driving. Slowly, quietly, the roles reversed, and you went from being the protector to being the one who needs protecting. And here's the problem. Your child doesn't know how to respect you in this new role. Nobody taught them. There's no manual that says, here's how to honor your parent when you're the one writing the checks. So they default to something that feels uncomfortable for both of you. They start treating you like a child. Not because they mean to, but because the only model they have for a caretaker-dependent relationship is the one you gave them when they were 5. What you can do, have an honest conversation, not during a conflict, but during a calm moment. Say something like, I know things are different now. I might need more help than I used to. But I'm still your parent, and I still need to be spoken to like an adult. Set the new terms. Don't let them be assumed. Reason 3. They perform for the world, but drop the mask at home. Your child has a work personality, a friend personality, a social media personality. They've learned, as we all have, to wear the appropriate mask for the appropriate room. At the office, they're composed. With friends, they're fun. On the phone with a customer service rep, they might even throw in a "thank you so much, I really appreciate your help." But when they walk through your door, the mask comes off. And what you see underneath isn't always pretty. It's raw. It's unfiltered. It's the version of them that's too tired to perform anymore. In a strange way, you should take it as a sign that your home still means something. It's the one place they don't have to pretend. The problem is, raw and unfiltered can easily slide into rude and dismissive. And many adult children don't realize there's a line between being real and being hurtful. What you can do, you have every right to say, I want you to be yourself around me. But being yourself doesn't mean being unkind. You can be honest and still be gentle. You're not asking them to perform. You're asking them to be decent. Those are two very different things. Reason 4. Unresolved childhood wounds they haven't processed. This one is hard, but it's important. Sometimes the disrespect you're experiencing isn't really about today. It's about 1987, or 1995, or some Tuesday afternoon that you've completely forgotten, but your child never did. Maybe it was a comment you made about their weight. Maybe it was a time you didn't show up for a game. Maybe it was the way you argued with their other parent. Maybe it was something you can't even imagine being significant, but to a 7-year-old, it was everything. And here's what I want you to understand. I'm not saying this to make you feel guilty. Every parent makes mistakes. Every single one. What I'm saying is that your adult child might be reacting to a version of you that no longer exists. They're arguing with the parent from 30 years ago, not the one sitting in front of them today. Unprocessed wounds don't disappear with age. They go underground, and they resurface every holiday dinner, every phone call, every visit, disguised as impatience, sarcasm, or cold distance. What you can do. If you sense there's something old lingering between you, consider saying, I know I wasn't perfect when you were growing up. If there's something I did that still hurts you, I'm willing to hear it. You don't have to agree with everything they say. You don't have to apologize for things you don't remember. But the act of opening that door, just cracking it open, can release years of built-up pressure. Reason 5. Your advice feels like criticism to them. You say, maybe you should put on a warmer coat. You mean, I love you and I don't want you to get sick. They hear, you can't even dress yourself properly. You say, have you thought about saving more money? You mean, I want you to be secure. They hear, you're bad with money. You're failing at life. This is one of the most common and most painful disconnects between aging parents and their adult children. Your intentions are pure, but the delivery lands like a judgment. And the reason it hits so hard coming from you, specifically, is because your opinion still matters more than they'd ever admit. When a boss criticizes them, it stings, but it stays at work. When a friend gives blunt feedback, it's uncomfortable, but it fades. When you say something even remotely corrective, it goes straight to the core of who they are. Because you're not just anyone. You're the first person who ever told them whether they were good or not. What you can do? Practice this one sentence. Memorize it. Tape it to your refrigerator if you have to. Do you want my opinion? Or do you just need me to listen? Those 12 words can prevent more arguments than a decade of therapy. Let them invite your advice. Don't deliver it uninvited. Reason 6. Guilt disguised as irritation. Here's something I've observed hundreds of times in my practice. An adult child who feels guilty about not doing enough for their aging parent will often express that guilt, not as sadness, not as apology, but as irritation. It works like this. Your son knows he should call more. He knows he should visit more. He knows he's not doing enough. That knowledge sits in his chest like a low hum of shame. But shame is an unbearable emotion. The human brain doesn't like sitting in it. So the brain does something clever and terrible. It converts the guilt into annoyance. Suddenly, instead of thinking, I feel bad that I haven't called mom, he thinks, why does mom always make me feel guilty? He redirects the discomfort outward, onto you. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your very existence reminds him of what he's not doing. So when you call and he's short with you, when you suggest a visit and he sighs, he's not annoyed at you. He's annoyed at himself. You're just the nearest target. What you can do, reduce the guilt triggers without abandoning your needs. Instead of, you never call me anymore, try, I love hearing from you whenever you have a minute. No pressure. It sounds small, but removing the accusation removes the guilt. And removing the guilt removes the irritation. You'll be amazed at how quickly the phone starts ringing again. Reason 7. They don't see you as a separate person. This might be the most overlooked reason on this entire list. When your child interacts with their boss, they see a full human being, someone with feelings, boundaries, bad days, personal struggles. They give their boss grace because they perceive their boss as a person. When they interact with friends, same thing. They tread carefully because they understand that their friend has an inner world, emotions, insecurities, limits. But when they look at you, many adult children don't see a person. They see a role. Mom, dad. A fixed character in the story of their life. Not someone who gets lonely. Not someone who cries after hanging up the phone. Not someone who lies awake at night wondering where things went wrong. This is the most common cognitive error in family relationships. We reduce our parents to their function. And when we see someone as a function rather than a person, we stop being careful with them. We stop considering their feelings. We forget that they can be hurt. What you can do, let them see you. Not just as mom or dad, but as a person. Share something vulnerable. Tell them about a fear you have. Talk about a dream you never pursued. Show them a part of you that exists outside the role of parent. When they start to see you as a full human being, not just a permanent fixture, the respect almost always follows. Reason 8. You never taught them how to respect an aging parent, because no one taught you either. And finally, we arrive at the simplest reason of all, and perhaps the most forgiving one. Nobody taught your children how to do this. And nobody taught you either. Think about it. Society teaches children to respect their teachers. There are rules, structures, consequences. The workplace teaches employees to respect their bosses. There are reviews, hierarchies, professional norms. Even strangers get the benefit of social etiquette. Please, thank you, excuse me. But where is the course on how to treat your aging parent? Where is the manual on how to have a relationship with your mother when she's 75? It doesn't exist. Not in school. Not in church. Not in therapy, most of the time. Your parents, your child's grandparents, may have never modeled this for your children because the life expectancy was different, the family structure was different, the culture was different. There was no blueprint. So both of you are standing in uncharted territory, making it up as you go, bumping into each other in the dark. And that's not failure. That's just the reality of being human in a world that changes faster than our emotional vocabulary can keep up with. What you can do: set the standard. Right now. Today. Not with anger. Not with guilt. With clarity and love. Look your child in the eye, or say it over the phone if that's all you have, and say these words: I love you. I will always love you. And I need you to speak to me with kindness. That's not a request. That's a boundary. It's never too late to teach the people you love how to treat you. Never. Now that you understand the 8 reasons, I want to leave you with 3 things you can put into practice starting today. Not next month. Not when the stars align. Today. First, name the behavior, not the person. When your child is dismissive, don't say, "You're so disrespectful." That attacks their character and they'll get defensive. Instead say, "That tone felt dismissive, and it hurt." You're describing what happened, not who they are. It's a small shift in language that makes a massive difference in outcome. Second, stop over-functioning to earn love. I see this all the time. Parents who cook, clean, babysit, lend money, run errands, not because they want to, but because they think if they stop, the love will stop too. Listen to me carefully. Respect doesn't come from sacrifice. It comes from boundaries. The more you do without being asked, the more invisible you become. Start doing less. Not out of spite, out of self-respect. Third, reintroduce yourself. Your child thinks they know you, but they know the version of you from 20 years ago. They know the parent who drove carpool and packed lunches. They don't know the person you are right now, your thoughts, your fears, your humor, your wisdom that comes from having survived decades of life. Invite them into a real conversation. Not about their schedule or the grandkids or the weather. About you. About what you're reading. About what keeps you up at night. About what makes you laugh until you cry. Let them meet the person behind the parent. That's where real respect begins. If you've made it to the end of this video, I want you to know something. You have not failed. You are not a bad parent. You did not raise ungrateful children. You are simply in a chapter of life that nobody gave you the script for. And that takes courage, more courage than most people will ever understand. You spent decades teaching your children how to walk, how to talk, how to face the world with their shoulders back and their head held high. You taught them how to read, how to ride a bike, how to get back up when life knocked them down. And now it's time to teach them one more thing: how to treat you. Not with anger. Not with guilt. With the quiet, steady dignity that has carried you through every season of your life so far. You deserve kindness. Not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. If this video spoke to you today, I'd love it if you hit that like button and subscribe to Strong Elderly Life. We're building something here, a community of people who refuse to shrink in their later years. People who believe that getting older means getting clearer, not quieter. Leave a comment below. Tell me, which of these 8 reasons hit home for you? You might be surprised how many others feel exactly the same way. And sometimes, just knowing you're not alone, that's the first step toward everything changing. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself. You matter more than you know.